welcome to Oceanic Oracle. My name is Ari and today I'm going to be sharing my Christmas wish list with you guys. I have my laptop down here to help me with names and authors and brief synopses, but I thought I would share this with you. Today is the last video in my countdown to Christmas. This should be going up on Christmas Eve. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had a fun time doing this sort of thing. I love Christmas and I love sharing the books that I love and the festive cheer with everyone. So it makes me happy. So I hope you're having a great time of the year, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. I hope you have a wonderful end of 2021. Let's bring on 2022. Let's hope it's better than than what we've had. I just love this time of year. It's my absolute favourite. I hope you've had some joy out of all this. I certainly have. I love this sort of thing. So these are just books that I have on the list. I do have other things like an Amazon Kindle that I've asked for, but these are just books that I have that I want. Some of them have been released this year. Others are classics. I've got a real mix of things. I just have an accumulative list of at least these ones that I really want to read. I have asked for some of these. I haven't asked for all of them because I'm not trying to bankrupt my family. Yeah, without further ado, shall we get on with my Christmas list? Let's start off with the first book on this list. And if you saw my come window shopping with me video, hopefully you would have seen me talk about this. And this is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is about a princess named Shiori, and she is the princess. She's the only princess of Kyoto, and she has a secret. She has magic that she's forbidden to use. On the day of her wedding, the wedding that she doesn't want, she lets it slip, and her evil stepmother catches her doing it, and thus begins the whole main issue in this situation. Her stepmother transforms all of Shiori's brothers into cranes, and Shiori cannot utter a word because every word she utters, one of her brothers dies. High stakes. I hope I get this one. I like the idea of it, and I love reading about sort of Asian inspired stories. So this is based on a story by the Brothers Grimm. Not sure which one, but it's definitely based on them. Hopefully I get this one. I love the UK cover. I think the UK cover is absolutely stunning. I'm going to be putting it up here. I love the colour palette. I love the pastels. I'm very partial to pale pinks and blues being on covers. I just love the look of this. Hopefully I get it. If I don't, then oh well. The next book I have on my Christmas wish list is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. If you see my come window shopping with me video, you will have seen this before. But this is about a circus that only appears at night, and no announcements are made before it turns up. While this circus appears only at night, behind it there's actually this sort of duel going on between two young magicians. I think there's romance in here. I think it's enemies to lovers. So it just makes my it just got pinged my interest. I think this book just sounds beautiful. It has been hyped up for me a fair bit from other booktubers that I've watched, and I'm just interested. A circus appearing without warning and two rival magicians having a dueling to see who's the greater magician. Also, I think there's a fight to the death in there. It just sounds something I would like. So yeah, that's The Night Circus. Hopefully, well, we'll see if I get it. If I don't, then that's fine. It's just a book I really want to read and I've heard a lot about, so we'll see if I get it or not. The next one on my list, my extensive list, is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This girl, Evangeline, she's grown up listening to stories about the Prince of Hearts, and she thinks she actually has the ability to withstand anything that he could throw her way, and she knows that deals with him rarely end well. But one day Evangeline learns that the love of her life is about to marry another, so she goes to the Prince of Hearts to strike a deal. He asks for one thing from her: 3 kisses. But after their first kiss, Evangeline learns that there's something much more sinister behind the prince's plans, and what he's planned for Evangeline is most likely going to end in tragedy. It just sounds interesting. It just sounds really good, and I really I want to pick it up. I really want to pick it up. I have asked for this, so we'll see if I get it, and if I don't, then whatever. My list grows. The next book on here is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is a book inspired by Russian folklore, which I find fascinating. It takes place at the edge of the Russian wilderness. In this village, the winter lasts most of the year, and it doesn't really ebb away. Yeah, our main character doesn't mind. She just listens to fairy tales around the fire, and she stays warm with her siblings. And she really loves the cold, the cold story of the Frost. And the Frost, who is a blue-eyed winter demon. But slowly, as Christianity starts to enter the country, stories about these sort of nature spirits fade out. In this world, all the spirits, all these magical spirits actually exist. Our main character Vasilisa can see them, but once Christianity starts to enter Russia and takes hold in its community, the people who believe in these sort of folk tales slowly dwindle until only Vasilisa is left. It's about the community stopping performing all these rituals that they used to do to appease these spirits, and suddenly everything starts to fall apart. Crops begin to fail, evil creatures of the forest creep into the village, and misfortune just reigns. As danger gets closer and closer, Vasilisa has to defy all of her people and go call on the dangerous gifts that she has, aka I'm assuming there's more to her than just seeing these spirits, but she has to rely on that. It just sounds like something I would want to read particularly now, because it's winter. Obviously Hong Kong does not get anywhere near as cold as Russia or even Northern Europe, but I want to read this trilogy. So this is the first book in a trilogy, and it just intrigues me. Well, we'll see if I get it. I'm just really into the sort of folklore, mythical, I mean, I'm always into myths, but this just sounds really interesting. We'll see if I get this. But yeah, it's just it just sounds beautiful, and it sounds like the perfect book for winter. The next book will be, I guess it might be a bit of a surprise, but I think if you've seen my channel, you know I like Jane Austen. I recently reread Pride and Prejudice, and I've read all 6 of Jane Austen's novels quite extensively, and I love them. There are a few that I don't love as much, but I definitely love Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion. They're my 2 favourite books of the lot. So this book, the book that I'm going to be talking about, is actually inspired by Jane Austen, and I think it just sounds really interesting. So the book I'm talking about is called Pride, Prejudice and Other Flavours. This is a gender-reversed Pride and Prejudice. It's about an overachieving Indian family, an Indian American family, so they live in San Francisco. So I think our main character, Dr. Trisha Rajay, is San Francisco's most acclaimed neurosurgeon. Her influential immigrant family has also achieved power by making its own non-negotiable rules: never trust a stranger, never do anything to jeopardize your brother's political ambitions, and never ever ever defy your family. Trisha is guilty of breaking all of these rules, but now she has a chance to reclaim herself, as long as she doesn't repeat old mistakes. On the other side, the up-and-coming DJ Kane has known people like Trisha before, people who judge him based on his rough beginnings and place pedigree above character. That sounds familiar. He needs the lucrative job the Rajays offer, but he values his pride too much to indulge in Trisha's arrogance. And when he discovers that she's the only neurosurgeon who can save his sister's life, the two clash, and their assumptions crumble like a spun sugar on DJ's stunning desserts. But before a future can be savoured, there's the past to be reckoned with. it just sounds fun. Like, oh, like it just sounds really interesting, and I want to read more like books inspired by Pride and Prejudice. I think when I read books that are like sequels or prequels, I find they can be a bit like fan fiction-y. This sounds like an interesting take on it, and honestly it just sounds really good. I want to pick it up. Hopefully I get this, and I'm just really interested. I'd love to see an Indian take on it. This author, Sonali Dev, she's written 3 books already, including this one, that are based on Jane Austen. If I like this one, then I'll definitely go and pick up the next 2 books in this series, or in this ongoing series, because like I love Jane Austen and I like this take, and it's just really interesting. The next book that I've asked for is Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. This is like an extra book in the Grishaverse. It's like a storybook of all these sort of like folklore in this world. It's just inspired by like myth, folklore based in this world that Leigh Bardugo has created, and I want to read it. I'm just looking forward to actually seeing it, because like it's all these sort of like short stories based on events that happen in the series, and yeah, I just want to pick it up. I think it sounds nice, and I want to add to my Leigh Bardugo collection. Honestly, it's just for me to add to my Grishaverse collection. All right, moving on. Another book that I've asked for is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This book came out earlier this year. This book follows Piper Bellinger, and she is fashionable, influential, and her reputation as a wild child means the paparazzi are constantly on her tail. When too much champagne and an out-of-control rooftop party lands Piper in the slammer, her stepfather decides that enough is enough, and he sends her off to her late father's dive bar in Washington. So Piper hasn't been to this place in Washington, Westport, in years, but within 5 minutes she meets this big bearded sea captain named Brendan. Brendan thinks she won't last a week outside of Beverly Hills. So what if Piper can't do maths, and the idea of sleeping in a shabby apartment with bunk beds gives her hives? How bad could it be? She's determined to show her stepfather and the hot, grumpy local that she's more than just a pretty face. We'll see if I get this. It sounds really interesting, and I do like Tessa Bailey's writing. I have asked for it. We'll see if I get it, but who knows. The next book that I have on this list is Our Violent Ends. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year, hands down, ever since I read These Violent Delights in April, I think. This is the sequel to These Violent Delights, so I won't go into like too much information. This duology is inspired by Romeo and Juliet. It's set in the 1920s in Shanghai, which I really appreciate and I really enjoy reading about, having grown up in Asia for like all my life. I'm just looking forward to it. I love the first book, and hopefully I love the sequel. I really enjoy Chloe Gong's writing. I think I also I enjoy the fact that there's pinyin splashed in the book, or at least in the first one. I'm not sure about this next one, but it's beautiful, and I love reading about China, particularly in like the 1920s. I just think it's interesting. I find it really interesting because you also talk about the Russians who came down from Russia to like northern China, and that population. In the first book, you have Roma and Juliet come from 2 rival gangs who are fighting for control over Shanghai, and I just find that concept really interesting. I really enjoy this book, and I'm looking, hopefully I get it, well, we'll see. The idea of it just really, I just want that book in my hands. Like, I want to read it immediately. The next book that I have on my long list, it's Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. This book, like, I really enjoyed reading A Sorcery of Thorns at the beginning of this year in like May, I think, or April. Vespertine is going to be a series, actually, as it turns out. So I'm interested to see what Rogerson does. I did like her other books that were standalones, so we'll see what she can do when she has the freedom of like writing a sequel. So obviously the book's still going to have a beginning, middle and end, but like it's going to have an ongoing theme. I'm looking forward to this. I just like this concept, and I think this is just fun. So this book is about Artemisia, who is training to become a Grey Sister, who is a nun that cleanses the bodies of the dead, of the deceased, so their souls can pass on to the afterlife. If she doesn't do this, then these souls will all start eating people, like normal everyday people. She'd rather deal with the dead than with the living, because like people can be like really backhanded. They trade in secrets, they trade whispers about her hands which are scarred, and usual prejudicial stuff. So when Artemisia's convent is attacked by possessed soldiers, Artemisia defeats it by awakening an ancient spirit bound to a saint's relics. It is a reverent, malignant being that threatens to possess her the moment she drops her guard. Wielding its extraordinary power almost consumes her, but death has come to L'Oreal and only Vespertine, a priestess who is trained to wield a high relic, has any chance of stopping this spirit. With the knowledge of Vespertine's lost to time, Artemisia turns to the last remaining expert for help, the Reverend itself. As Artemisia unravels a sinister mystery of saints, secrets, and dark magic, her bond with the Reverend grows, and when a hidden evil begins to surface, she discovers that facing this enemy might require her to betray something she was taught to believe, if the Reverend doesn't betray her first. I like this concept, and I want to see what Margaret Rogerson does with the series. The next book on my list, this is turning into a wish list more so than this is just something that I really want. I really want the 10-year anniversary edition of the Song of Achilles. I haven't asked for it. I'm not going to get it. I haven't actually asked for it because I have this perfectly fine copy, which is beautiful and I love. But the 10-year anniversary edition is just beautiful and stunning. I think that one actually comes with a ribbon bookmark as well. I don't need it, but I want it, you know? It's just I wish I could have it. I don't need multiple copies of books because I don't need it. I have this one and I love this copy. It's one of my favorite books. They're the same story, it's just a different cover, it's a new reprint, and it's just beautiful. The Song of Achilles follows, you guessed it, Achilles, but mostly it's told in the perspective of Patroclus. It's inspired by the Iliad, which takes place over the Trojan War. You can see it here. It's my copy of the Iliad. The Iliad is the story of the Trojan War. If you've heard of the Trojan horse and all that sort of thing, that all comes from the Iliad. I really like this retelling. This is an LGBT version of it. And yeah, I just really want this copy. It just looks so pretty, but I can't justify me asking for it and then also owning it, because I've written in this one, there's no point me owning 2 copies. The book hoarder in me wants it, but the practical person also knows, no, I don't need it. The next book that I've asked for is a murder mystery book, and this book is actually translation book as well. It's the Inugami Curse, and this is by Seishi Yokomiso, and this is a book written by Japan's version of Agatha Christie, basically. There are 2 books that have been translated to English. I read the Honjin Murders earlier this year, and this is the book that I haven't actually read, but I'm interested in. This book takes place in the 1940s in Japan, and it follows the family, Inugami family. When the wealthy head of the Inugami family dies, all of the relatives are waiting eagerly for them to read his will. But when some strange details are revealed inside this will, strange things start to happen. Their gruesome murders take place. So a detective Kindaichi, must unravel the clan's terrible secrets about forbidden liaisons, monstrous cruelty, and hidden identities to find the murderer, and thus lift the curse, lift the Inugami curse. It just sounds really interesting. One of my goals for next year is to read more works in translation. I'm fascinated. I enjoyed reading the first, the Hoja murders. I know I sort of like his writing. It can be a bit like heavy at times, but I think I could get through this. It just seems interesting. This is an interesting concept, and I want to try and read more thrillers. I think one of my goals for next year, when I set up my reading journal for next year, is going to have I want to try and read at least one thriller every month, because that's just a goal of mine. Another book that I have on this list is Felix Ever After. So this is a YA book. It's about a trans boy who's never been in love. He's aware of the irony because his name is in fact Felix Love. He desperately wants to know what love feels like and why it's easy for everyone else to fall in love. I will say, not only does this book have trans representation, but it also has in the asexual identity, this one being demisexual, which is great. So he doesn't understand why it's so easy for everyone else to find someone. What's worse is, even though Felix is incredibly proud of his identity, he feels like he's going to be one marginalization too far. He's black, he's queer, and he's transgender, and he doesn't think he's going to get his happily ever after, which is just when an anonymous student starts blackmailing him and sending him transphobic messages after publicly posting Felix's dead name, so pretty messed up, alongside images of him before he transitions, which, oh my god, it's just it's awful. Felix comes up with a plan for revenge. What he didn't count on, though, was his catfish scenario is leading him to a quasi-love triangle. As he navigates his complicated feelings, Felix begins a journey of questioning and self-discovery that helps him redefine the most important things in his life and how he feels about himself. I think this book just sounds so layered, and I want to read it. It's not available. I haven't seen it in any bookshops here in Hong Kong. If I could get my hands on this, I really want to read it, and I feel like I need more works by trans authors about trans characters on my shelves. This book is The Trouble with Hating You. It follows a successful biochemical engineer who's a takeout enthusiast and a very happy single woman. The moment she realizes that her parents' latest dinner party is actually a setup with the man they want her to marry, she's out the back door in a flash. See ya. Imagine her surprise when the same guy shows up at her office a week later because he's the new lawyer hired to save her struggling company. Well, it's not surprising. He is not too thrilled to see her either after the humiliating fiasco. Jay Shaw looks good on paper and off, especially off, especially if you like that whole gorgeous, charming lawyer in a good suit thing. He's also arrogant and infuriating. I'm sensing some hate to love here. I mean, the title gives it away too. As their witty office banter turns into late night texts and chats, Leia starts to think that he might be the one man who truly accepts her. But falling for each other means exposing painful parts. Will Leia keep running, or will she finally have a real chance at love? I want to pick this book up. Just sounds good, sounds interesting. Has all the things in a romance that I want to read. That is what I want. That brings me to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed these 12-day, this countdown to Bookmas, so 12 days worth of videos. I hope you enjoyed it. I've had a great time. I love sharing the books that I love, have loved, or hoping to love with you all. I'm just so grateful. I hope I've brought some joy to your life, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. It doesn't matter if it's already been celebrated. I hope you had a happy Hanukkah and happy Diwali if you did. I just wish everyone happy holidays. I'm going to leave it at that. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want more bookish content. My social media links I'm going to be putting up here, and I'm also going to be linking them in the description, along with the music I used for my intro and my outro. I hope you have a wonderful day or night, depending on when you're watching this. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will see you probably in 2022. Woo! So close. We're so close. All right. Bye, guys.